Okay, now you may be asking why me as a packaging technologist am so enamored with automation. Actually, when I started in the packaging industry, I didn't think that automation was something very close to the packaging industry per se. I thought it was more something that came before in the process. And then packaging had a certain element of automation, but it was not that critical. But then as I got deeper and deeper into the subject, I found that at the packaging machine level itself, we could transform packaging completely, both in quality and productivity by automation. But at a second stage, by integrating this with the process. So today, when I look at packaging, I look at process and packaging together as an integrated whole. And if you don't look at process and packaging, and after today's session, I can say end of line, warehousing, further supply chain, retail, and the consumer. So automation can cover the entire gamut. And I think the future, which will be an intelligent automation future, will see this complete line integration. That is the vision that I am seeing clearly emerging. I'm not an astrologer, but I can tell you this is the way the future is going to go. Yeah. Here I've concentrated on the pharma industry because we are in Hyderabad, but almost every industry will require this. And we must look at what are the industry trends as far as pharma is concerned. And as far as Indian pharma is concerned, it is generics, generics, and generics. That will be the most important segment of pharma with huge volumes. What is driving this is more and more chemistries will be off patent in the next 5 years. And the molecules which are coming off patent are more complex than the molecules which came off patent before. So it's not, though they are generics, they are not at the same level of complexity. They're going to be at a much higher level of complexity. These new molecules are more complex molecules. So while there'll be growth in traditional generic volumes, they will still continue to grow because they are the bottom of the ladder. There will be increasing pricing pressure on the traditional generics. And therefore, A, because what is coming off patent is the super generic, and B, because it has the possibility of giving the pharma company a better price, you will see the emergence of super generics in Indian pharma for better patient care and better pricing and profitability. Along with that, there will be move to new dosage forms, right? And super generics to escape price control. For example, if there is something which is self-soluble, in dosage form, you may be able to escape the government's price control. This is very interesting to know that. And also a super generic may not be defined under the price control order. So it may make a huge difference to your profitability. Also emerging as a new industry trend are the new therapeutic entities, the NTEs. There will be greater investments in R&D globally, and some of them will be outsourced to India. Important to note is that R&D pipelines in Europe and USA are full. They can't handle more. Any further R&D will be outsourced to new economies, including India. So advanced country concentration will be on certain types of R&Ds, oncology, hepatitis C. Yesterday we heard of hepatitis B, but the new R&D is in hepatitis C, Alzheimer's disease, etc. So the opportunity for emerging economies will be in the other areas, and there will be a lot of development of new APIs. There will be less interest in the Me Too cholesterol treatment products. There are hundreds of products which already treat cholesterol and other such Me Too products. Hum bhi hain, say you will go to hum hi hain, okay? And somewhat more radical development will be required. Maybe at last we will see Indian branded API, not only in India, but maybe reaching global scale. So these are some of the things which I see in the future when I do my research on Indian pharma. Regulatory and image issues. Western pharma companies are evaluated individually. So if you look at a Pfizer, if there's a failure, it's Pfizer's failure. It's not the whole of US's failure. Or at best as part of a category like oncology. But Indian pharma is evaluated as a whole. If Ranbaxy is fined 500 million US dollars, it is because Indians are not quality conscious. One US FDA approval boosts image of the entire industry and the share market goes up. One non-compliance pulls down the image of the whole industry. So Aurobindo Pharma can get affected by Dr. Reddy's. Indian pharma image is of low cost with low to medium quality. It hurts the ego when I see companies like Dr. Reddy's sitting in this room, people of such knowledge and stature. And yet, what is the global image? Low cost, bulk outsourcing, low to medium quality. API cleanliness issues exist. Efficacy issues exist. India produces 8% of global pharma volume, but commands only 1.5% of global pharma revenue. So you can see where our pricing is. Exports earlier were predominantly to emerging economies, but now due to the off-patent regime are expanding rapidly to advanced economies, but in the low-end products. Generics prevail in Indian pharma, but the move is towards super generics. Why am I saying all this and what has it got to do with automation? There is a change happening in Indian pharma. We are going to have acquisitions. More companies will be acquired. Indian pharma will be more acquired than be acquirers. There will be some acquiring, but it will be more getting acquired. Okay? There will be licensing. There will be joint ventures. There will be some niche companies emerging. Super generics will increase. There will be certain types of NTEs, including global branded NTEs. Volumes are going to increase. But so will variety. I have not put it in the slide. While volumes will increase, it will be with more SKUs. There will be greater regulatory pressure. Price controls will be there in India at least, if not in other parts of the world. And therefore, change has to come for survival and growth. We are coming closer to automation. It's automation for survival. So variety and SKUs are increasing, volumes are increasing. Therefore, the new production systems must combine economies of scale with and flexibility towards the market. So the old production systems aren't going to work. You will not survive if you persist with the old production systems. Indian pharma needs new processes and advanced process control. Need exists for seamless control, and the word is seamless, control of motion, flow, level, size, purity, crystallinity, asepsis, dosage form, packaging, track and trace, securitization, cube optimization, energy efficiency, and footprint reduction, even in terms of space. Space occupied, because space is going to become more expensive. And need exists for plug and play flexibility. You take out one reactor, plug in another reactor, play on. Okay? Plug and play flexibility. It's a new kind of production system that we are talking about. Partnership with automation. This is where automation is entering. And why is automation entering? Because it's being driven by change. Process design can be enhanced with the power of automation for greater efficiency and reliability. Automation enables integration of process steps. Automation provides choices for process simplification. Automation moves pharma industry from batch production and batch sequencing to continuous process flow. Continuous process flow. Automation reduces process intervention cycle time. The hysteresis loss times are much lesser and stabilizes output and quality. Automation improves flexibility through changeover to plug-and-play modules in the process sequence. Automation streamlines material flow and heat exchange and optimizes energy consumption, and space utilization is superior with automation. Thus, you need automation for survival. Impact of automation on pharma packaging. Now, I talked of the process, now the packaging. Pocket size can be reduced and the pack area can be decreased. Downgauging of packaging materials is facilitated with automation. You can run thinner and thinner materials. Now remember, once the super generics is coming in, greater amount of high barrier packaging for super generics will be required. And this high barrier packaging, it could be a CLAR, it could be a cold form blister, it could be a PVDC coated PVC or whatever it is, will be greater in price. Therefore, when you reduce the pocket size, when you reduce wastage, when you down gauge, okay, your savings will be very substantial with automation. In the super generic category, much more than in the generic category. Outer packaging will become more compact because now your blister pack is smaller. You are able to even print all your regulatory stuff very neatly in a very small area. Transportation costs constantly come down. Dosage form you will be able to alter very easily. You can switch from one dosage form to another very fast. And the feed of the product will be speeded up because your control on the product would have improved, your feeding systems would be automated, your formation of the pack will be automated, perfect. वो गिरेगा तो उसी पॉकेट में उसी तरीके से गिरेगा, okay? And pack formation to exact specification with high throughput. Insertion of product information leaflets will be faster and more precise. Collation and cartoning of the primary pack will be much faster, okay? And tertiary packaging will be integrated with the primary and secondary, including with pick and place, so you may not even have to close the carton. You can have the open flats, you can have the robotic pick and place and close and out. So you save on a lot of stapling and other things before that, and you save on the bulkiness. Track and trace will be built into the line design, as we have seen in the earlier presentations yesterday and today, and time to market will shrink. This is what automation is going to do in packaging. So in process, it will lead you to continuous process and plug and play. And here, these are the things it will do for you in the packaging. What are the automation tools that you will require to do this? Sensors. See, the automation basically reproduces a human being. All of us have sensors, our 5 senses. So automation has a variety of sensors. There could be sensors for temperature, pressure, position, color, anything, okay? But there has to be something which senses the reality. And there are actuators which will do what you want it to do. Your muscles in your body will become an actuator in an automated system. High-speed data communication. So the sensor sends the signal to the brain, the central command, very fast, and the central command then actuates the actuator very fast. In this loop, the speed is increasing. As both Rockwell and Omron will certify, the kind of speeds they are attaining today in the data communication networks are awesome. Very advanced protocols, and these need protocols. Because how will the data shake hands from such a variety of sensors to such a variety of actuators? So you need global protocols to make the data talk to each other. Central and distributed control. You can design your architecture in many ways. Motion control will be very complex. You can do multiple axis control, complex camming. You can almost trace any shape and ask the automator to follow it. Robotics and synchronized robotics and vision integration. So the robot is also seeing you and acting accordingly. Robot with a vision. Pharma process design and automation architecture. New systems approach is required. So you can't do automation just in bits and pieces. You need what is called a systems approach. Advanced process design, continuous flow maybe, combined with extensive process re-engineering. And this cannot be done without modeling, both mathematical modeling, chemical engineering modeling, pharmaceutical process modeling, but advanced modeling will be required. And automation will help you with the maths, with the modeling. And you will need pilot plants. Please network with those who can supply you such pilot plants. There is no avoiding such pilot plants in future. That's your survival. Partnership with machinery manufacturers, raw material suppliers, automation vendors. Believe me, without a good partner, you are sunk. Public domain automation versus customized automation under IPR. Public domain automation is very cheap. Customized automation, Rockwell will come and sell you the moon. It'll cost a lot. But then look at the performances, you'll have to take your call. I am, of course, a believer in public domain, but it may not be the most optimal, because I am a man who doesn't believe in being under any automation vendor. But sometimes customized solutions are better. And selecting the right automation vendor is critical. I'm not pitching for anyone, whether it be Siemens or Rockwell or Omron or anybody, but whoever is right for you, please select very carefully. That's my brief introduction to why have we brought this topic into this seminar. And then I invite Harvinder, whom I have introduced earlier, to talk about his experience at the packaging machine level with how automation improves the packaging machine operation and the packaging productivity. Harvinder.
Yeah, very good evening. So, thanks for introducing me, sir. And let me just start my topic, which is productivity improvement by automation. Since my marketing team will kick my butt if I don't introduce Rockwell, so one slide to introduce my company. Rockwell Automation, a 6.3 billion turnover company, and its presence in more than 80 countries. So typically, Rockwell only deals with automation products and serves almost entire range of market, all the segments, all the industries. So when we are talking about improving productivity, what does it mean to OEM, right? Does it mean that just increasing the machine speed is going to increase the productivity? Typically, I visit an OEM and the first thing I hear from the OEM is, I'm doing a 200 ppm machine, somebody in Europe is doing 800 ppm. Can I just increase my motor speed and get 800 ppm? So definitely that's a stupid statement. So I just keep telling them, no, you can't just simply increase the motor speed and get 800 ppm. Did you try to understand what exactly he did, right? Did he try to address all the aspects that are required to be addressed in a packaging line? So I'll just cover the aspects that are important. The first and foremost is mechatronics. Conventional machines, we know that most Indians are comfortable with mechanical based machines. Still many OEMs vouch selling a mechanical machine because they know the end users can handle it very well. The kind of technologists or mechanics they have, the maintenance people, they still love to use only a mechanical machine. But overall, it's not really going to serve the purpose, right? Because end of the day, what the end user wants is something different. He doesn't want a mechanical machine with a fixed profile, fixed product. He wants something really different, that is more flexible, more adaptable type machines. So definitely that can be addressed only through mechatronics. So introduction of servos, introduction of electronic camming, electronic gearing. So that's the first aspect. The second aspect is how good you can integrate your machine into the line, right? Simply just putting a machine in the line, we can't expect that it is going to produce the rated ppm, right? At least the machine should be able to integrate with upstream, downstream machines. Otherwise, end of the day, you will end up running an empty machine and still operator are trying to figure out how to feed product, how to take the product out, right? So integration is the second important aspect. Third is safety. See, when I go to any OEM and I ask, sir, what is the safety product you use? The first thing they point out is an emergency switch. They say, this is my safety device in the machine. And I say, how you are going to use it as a safety device. He say, as soon as operator puts his hand and if it gets caught, he will press emergency to save himself. So I said, that's really not a safety device. Actually, a emergency push button is not even a safety device. Okay, it's an actuation device, right? So safety is something that's really to be understood. Still, India is still far behind European and American market, wherein OEMs and end user think that safety is something that's going to only reduce the productivity, because you are going to bound the machine with too many rules and regulations, and probably the end user at some point of time is going to put all the rubber band and tapes on the limit switches and safety switch and try to bypass everything, right? So safety is something that's really to be understood. So the next aspect is information. So now you have got the machine on the shop, on the plant floor, the machine is running. Somebody has to come, try figure out what's the machine state, what's the production speed, is there anything that I have to address. So that's not really going to work, right? Because the end user really wants a machine which has got readily all the information, and whether they can integrate this machine back to their ERP or the line control systems, right? So the machines definitely should have information that's required. And the next is diagnostic, because most of the machines which really, as soon as they get into a breakdown state, the first 1 or 2 hours, the operator only tries to figure out what exactly went wrong in the machine. And most of the time he ends up calling the OEM guy middle of night, and he will be like quite sleeping happily, and then he just says, machine band ho gaya, batao kya karna hai. So I too had one experience where the OEM guy said, are the other machines running next to that? He said, yes. He said, shut down all the machine. You two sleep peacefully, I will sleep peacefully. Kal subah isko figure out karenge. Okay. Okay. So diagnostics is really important, because because we are talking about productivity, right? So if the end user guy is going to lose a lot of time only to figure out what the fault is, then definitely this is a very big loss. And finally, where the automation really tries to help, right, on the sustainability part. Because today, if you sell a machine to an end user and every time this machine starts, or something, or the product type changes, some parameters change, if the operator has to stop, remove all the products, waste like lot amount of paper, he has to do lot of trial and error, wasting at least 10-15 products or maybe hundreds of products. This is not something sustainable, right? End of the day, the OEM the end user may say that better I will not do any R&D on this machine, I'll just buy an European machine, right? So sustainability, I'll just come more in detail on all these topics. So sustainability is something really to be looked into. So on the mechatronics part, definitely electronic camming is really an important aspect. Why it's needed? The first and foremost, addressing the variability, right? A same machine, the OEM may say, I want to pack from 100 gram to 1 kg. And now the OEM needs to figure out, how am I going to give a machine flexible enough to pack right from 100 grams to maybe 1 kg packet, or maybe small carton to large carton, right? So somewhere he needs some kind of, if he tries to do this mechanically, he will need to try to figure out a lot of engineering, and then maybe even the operator who is operating the machine, every time there is a variability, he has to do a lot of mechanical changes. Definitely electronic camming is going to cut down all those time very easily. You just change over the recipe type from the HMI and the machine is ready to be operated, right? So variability, change over time, definitely if you have such a good flexible system, you are going to cut down on your changeover time. And the last is on the sustainability part, on electronic camming, when you have some kind of interruption in the machine, there are concepts like the recovery concepts. you can recover the cycle from where you interrupted last. So if the OEM gives this kind of feature, the end user would love it, because as soon as there is a power failure or there is an emergency stop, the moment operator starts, he doesn't even have to remove a single bit of paper from the machine, because the machine is recovering itself and just starts from there. So definitely that supports sustainability part. The next, line integration. Definitely when the OEM is supplying the machine, the first and foremost challenge for him is how he is going to feed the product. So because now even end users want machines that are really flexible and gets adapted to the product in feed, right? So if there is a non-linear rate of input or even non-standard shapes and size of product, he wants the machine to still adapt to those variabilities. So the smart belt technology, which are like a group of belts, just correct the product's positions and automatically feeds. So this technology by automation will be one answer. And the next is using a robotic type feeding like Delta robots. There are you just put in robots which has vision integration. They figure out how to pick and place the products and they can address. And third, on this aspect, how sustainability is supported, right? Because you see, if an OEM is supplying a machine which always runs on a fixed speed and doesn't even understands what's happening in the line, then this machine is going to waste a lot of energy. But what really the end user wants is the machine should actually understand what's happening in the line, adapt to the line speed. It has to at least, if there is no products coming in, it has to at least go into a minimum speed or a shutdown state. As soon as the demand increases, it should actually adapt to those demands, right? So overall, this is really going to save a lot of energy if the machine is intelligent enough to adapt to the line conditions. Third is definitely the safety part. Conventionally, people have a lot of misconception on the safety, and they just simply put a lot of door switches, safety relays, and the only thing they know is as soon as something is opened, you shut down all the access and cut off the power, right? But that's not really what the end user wants, right? Because then eventually somebody is going to bypass all the safety because he is really annoyed with that. So there are certain concepts and technology which already are coming into the safety, that is safe speed. You don't have to really shut down the machine to do a maintenance, because there are machines which actually have to run when you have to do maintenance. So there is a concept called safe speed, right? And then there are zone controls, like probably if the entire perimeter is safeguarded, still there are certain zones which can actually allow the user to get into and safely come out. So there are zone controls which help the user not to stop the machine but still work under a safe condition. There are like control stop, like you don't have to abruptly shut down the entire power of the machine to actually comply with safety. No, you can do a very controlled rapid stop, still comply to the safety standards. And finally, a better diagnostic, because if all these safety devices and are integrated into a single architecture, maybe the network-based architecture or a single controller, the user is going to really get a lot of better information on the safety faults. Like for example, conventionally people will just put lot of all the door interlock switches in series, and let there be like 20 doors. Any one door open, the only fault he's going to get is door open. And then the sequence of procedure he does is open, close, open, close, open, close, all the 20 doors. And then he sees, okay, fault is reset. But if the machine can tell, okay, door number 10 is open, at least the user knows that which door to be reset, right? So better diagnostic with the help of integrated safety solutions is going to improve a lot of productivity. Okay, and how about real-time diagnostics, right? Because when you have a good amount of a well-designed automation put into the machine, definitely the machine is going to give you a lot more diagnostic information, be it like all the drives, all the field devices, if they are actually better integrated by networking, at least the user is going to get much more information, like not just drive fault. Instead of that, maybe he may get a fault over current, over temperature. So most of the times, these shutdowns, actually why the time to figure out is more, because the user only gets one generic message, drive faulted or something faulted, and he has to then figure out, open the panel, see the code, refer to the manual, and then he has to understand. But if the information is very clear, at least he can better address those faults. And with automation today, focusing a lot on the remote connectivity, many and many users want a OEM to be remotely connected to the machine. So in case of any problem happening, he doesn't want a person to all the way travel, but just take the machine online, figure out what the fault, address it, and probably within a couple of 1 or 2 hours, just want the machine to be up. And finally, the information enabling. So if these machines, with the help of the architecture that has much more information on all the devices, can better give information to the top level ERP systems, and implementation of standards like PACML standards, you can even give much more information like OEE to the top level managements. And since now the architecture is more going towards the Ethernet based architecture, so it's really easy for a industry to integrate a machine into their system. So just a holistic view, like the connected enterprise, the machine at the bottom level just gets connected to the top business management level. And even today you must be knowing, like a lot of OEMs, the maintenance guy, the production guy, everyone wants the machine to be connected to his smartphone or iPad, and he doesn't want to come and touch the screen, just wants to go on the mobile, understand what's happening in the machine. So these things are quite possible with today's automation technology. So that's it. Thank you.
In fact, towards the end, he mentioned PACML. I have a personal experience with PACML. We did it at an exhibition 2 years back. When we had a line carton being packed, coming out, there was a robot doing vision sensing. So it was orienting the carton in a particular way. Then there was, assortment being made. And then there was a pick and into the outer box. And then there was that was a second robot, and the third robot was doing the palletization and pushing forward for the stretch wrapping. So 3 robots in synchronism with a line carton machine and a palletizer operating under PACML. And the principle of it is very simple. It is a global standard. It's a public domain architecture, and it operates by states and modes. A very simple form, or many of you may like to study it. It's simple, and you may ask your automation vendor to be under PACML because, as I said, that's a public domain architecture. With these words, and that helps you to integrate the entire packaging line, and the packaging line with the process and with the enterprise management systems. With that, let me invite Mr. Vivekanand Patil. He will talk about the quality aspects which can be brought about by automation.
Thank you, Mr. Dev. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to first thank to organizers given opportunity to Omron to present here on the aspect of quality management. So the subject as a quality management, the brief agenda, what is basically quality management? Is there any need of automation in quality management? Benefits to customer, automation as a quality management tool, and some case studies. And there is one more aspect which is like quality control by using big data, which is on ERP level, and brief about the company. In general excellence, if you see, in general, we talk about it's a standard or level that is quality. In distinctive attribute or characteristics, possessed by something or someone. In manufacturing, it is little bit more a measure of excellence or a state of being free from defects, deficiencies, and significant variations. So this is what everybody treat as a different definition. I don't want to go into more detail into that. What is quality management? The act of overseeing all the activities and tasks needed to maintain a desired level of excellence. This includes creating and implementing quality planning, assurance, as well as quality control and quality improvement. So we will talk more about the quality management. Is really automation needed in quality management? And if you see the pictures, non-reliable, uneven, overlook, dangerous situation, fatigue, and in turn low productivity. So moreover, if you see the pictures, you will understand, yes, there is a need of quality in quality management by automation. In overall terms, automation as a quality management tool, there are multiple products, but I am just referring few of them as a PLC and motion controllers, human-machine interface, database connectivity, vision systems, code readers, and so on. I'll not go much detail into depth of it. If you see the vision system, which is basically reducing the waste and giveaway, and barcode reader or code readers, removing non-sellable product with imperfect labels. So these are some pictures I have given just for as a illustration. What are the actual benefits to customer? Your customer, you are our customer, your customer is somebody else, so it's a chain. So customer satisfaction and loyalty for every supplier is very important, and a good quality of product provides a satisfaction to the customer and increase the customer loyalty and belief in your product. Brand value generation, based on that quality only, the brand value is generated. So it is very simple. I'm not giving something different, but just probably to summarize and maybe refresh. Waste, because of waste, we invest a lot of cost in that, and the cost reduction because of waste reduction is possible with the 100% inspection. And due to that, it's reduced wastage improves the economics, which is because of production and keeping quality in check. And peace of mind. Whenever you supply the good quality product, at least we'll have a peace of mind. Okay, there will be no problem and nothing will happen. My product is good, quality is good, so rest assured. So in terms, if you see the figure, the cost will overall go down, profit will increase, client will be happy and satisfied because of the traceability and the productivity you can improve through the quality. Let's see some of the packaging lines here. I have just taken some of the examples like flow wrapping machine with integrated with automatic encasing, overwrapping, automatic carton packaging. If you see every machine, there are some quality checkpoints are there. Either it is product quality, sealing quality, cutting quality, or maybe product presence, absence verification, barcode or maybe pharma code, code reading, sealing quality, wrapping quality. So definitely everybody wants every point of time to check the quality. Either it is product or it is package. This is one of the further, which already Harvinder said, it's an integration. Definitely integrated automation solution is equally important to in overall productivity as well as in quality also. So here you can see again product quality, sealing accuracy and quality. Both are equally important, cutting accuracy and quality for your pouches. Picking accuracy, placing accuracy and quality is equally important. Robotics is a new generation which is coming. As far as concerned, automotive is already way ahead. Pharma, I think they will pick up very soon on even robotics. So I would like to show you some of the applications which is a real live experience. Here it is tablet inspection with vision. So there are multiple defects you can measure, like missing tablet, broken tablets, chipping tablets, color verification, foreign particles. Some of application which we have done based on that, the customer benefit is a complete solution for defects and foreign particle inspection with accuracy of 100 microns. And high speed, again it is for productivity, high speed inspection of 1500 samples per minute. So some of these kind of applications, syringe and needle inspection, which is again here verification and presence of single, every pouch should have a single syringe, inspection of 22 packets in one shot. Again here, solution for presence inspection per pouch is possible, multi-pocket inspection with reduced inspection time. Quality inspection for vials. If you see here, the defect of inspection, cracked glasses, air bubble, stuck glass, glass link, many defects you can see, and the measurement of total height or leaf height, neck height, all the parameters you can measure. Customer benefits with the multiple camera inspection, line speed increased from 20 BPM, bottles per minute, to 150. It's almost 7.5 times. And complete solution with the 50 micron accuracy. Another is optical character recognition and barcode recognition. So we have the solutions where we can show the optical character recognition, pharma code, 2D code, barcode, etc. with the single camera. And here in this case, it's a high speed 600 samples per minute. So this is about whatever vision or integrated solution. One more is a quality control utilizing by big data. You had already gone through the small video which started with initial of this seminar. Basically, we have the new controller where if you see here, if you want to connect your PLCs to the server, you need PC. That was earlier stage. Now we are coming, there is no need of PC, and you can directly communicate your all the data of machine data directly to server. And the benefit, it is a precise, easy and high value. All the data images associated for easy analysis. So either it is vision or maybe it is your PLC. So everything directly you can give it to the SQL server. If you see here in first phase, the requirement of PC and PC software, sometime it is PC software corrupts, everything hang. So these kind of problems will not come into the new traceability system. So as a this new tool, quality control system that can utilize data precisely, which is very important for overall your plant machine line quality control, and which probably will contribute to your future manufacturing trend. How it works, it has given like it is very fast. Machine data can be stored on database at a frequency of 20 milliseconds. Very reliable. Data is stored with loss of integrity, even in the event of failure. Thanks to the spool function, there is a spool function within the controller, and the database can be accessed easily using instruction for the controller which is given there. So this is the new controller which we have come up. I would like to brief about the company. We established in Indian operation. Omron is globally $7.6 billion US company, and We established in India 1996, 150 employees with the 5 established offices in all India and around 11 regional locations with 2 repair centers, 3 training centers, 40 application engineers to develop your system or machines, and 1 logistics center and 1 automation center. Automation center, what exactly Mr. Dev has already described bit. So this is our overall all India network for the support. And what is exactly automation center? We have the space of close to 4,000 square feet in Mumbai, where we have established few of the machines, which is a live experience. And there are some systems with the new NJ controller and other vision products, which is you can see on live. Many times what happened before finalizing on your system, you would like to see what is the product, how it works. So this is the facility where you can come see the live experience. In quality, especially when you decided to go for some vision inspection, initially you want to see some samples to be tested, and then you can go actual on trial. So those kind of samples we can test at our laboratory. This is the 5th global automation center in from Omron. We have globally in every region like America, Japan, China and Europe, and in Asia Pacific, India is the first. So this is the investment for further growth and commitment from Omron side to Indian manufacturing industry. And that's it. We look forward to see you at our automation center in future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And when you talk of quality systems through automation, either measuring, say, level or color or doing the count and ensuring, one of the things is that the automation architecture itself should not generate errors. So the new Ethernet or the new EtherCAT systems, they are able to do conflict resolution because these data systems are working at very high speeds. So there could be conflicts. So there are conflict resolution mechanisms so that the automation system itself does not introduce an error of its own into the whole thing. So between the diagnostics of the machine and the data analytics of the quality system, you can have a pretty good idea of what led to what. So we must combine the diagnostics coming from the machine as a result of automation with the quality information and the data analytics on the quality information to see why, say, a level has fluctuated, or why a certain weight has not come, or a certain count has not come, or a certain color has not come, or a certain viscosity has not come, for whatever reason, whatever is happening, or a leakage is happening, etc. With those words, I would now like to invite Mr. Dasgupta, because once you have produced a good product, then you need to palletize it and then push it on to the supply chain. So Mr. Dasgupta will take it onwards from there and explain to us.
Before I start, let me tell you that all of you who had been to the exhibition, in the Signode stall, there is a machine which is an automatic zip applicating on an FFS machine. See, up to now, what we have been seeing in India is basically a pre-made pouch with a zipper. That means first you make a pouch, you fix a zipper, then it goes to another machine, then you fill the product and then seal it. Now, in this exhibition, what you would see is there is a Omron equipment which is helping to coordinate the this is something which is ringing. Is this yours? Is this yours? Okay. So which integrates, there is a Omron controller which integrates the application of the zip, and you have a pouch. while it is being made, the zip is also applied. So you can use, as an user of FFS machine, a zip which is getting applied. So this is what it does. Now, I will go to my presentation, in which, say, as Dave said, that correctly we have gone through the entire packaging process, and now we say the end of the line. Now, an end of the line is very important. I will give you a case story for this, that I was working with a multinational, and when we audited the entire process of its journey and the finished quality, we saw that up to the warehouses it is fine, then it is transported to the CNA, there also it is fine, from there it goes to the wholesaler, and there the problem starts, because there the bulk is broken into smalls. Now the bulk is broken into smalls, it is no longer palletized, then it goes to the retailer, from the retailer is where the customer comes in, and then he sees the pack which is not so good as it was made. So the problem, as we analyzed in the whole process, was at the end of the journey. The end of the journey because the bulk was broken. And what happens when the bulk was broken, I like you to take it through. Say, one of the major reasons of the failure of corrugated boxes is due to bad stacking, storage and handling. Now, up to now, we have tried to address this issue by making it stronger and stronger. There is a video, it's not coming in. Come in. So we have tried to make the box, come. Is an AV, it is not opening. Say, for example, this is a corrugated box. Okay. This is a corrugated box. As the load is being applied, the sides bend. Now, how it is different from the other boxes? If you would have a wooden box, it would not have. Okay, I don't think it's working. Okay. It's playing. No, the sides deform and things like this. It is not playing. It's showing static. Anyway, it was just showing how the box is deforming. Now, the entire thing which I wanted to tell was that the boxes deform. But if you say in wooden box, the wooden box would. Okay. Yeah. Can you get it back? Now, say the wooden boxes do not deform. The wooden boxes do not deform because the bending stiffness of wood is very high, but not so of the corrugated boxes. That's the reason that corrugated boxes has to be placed in a certain manner so that the loads are carried out their corners. Because suppose you see a room, the whole load is taken by columns. Say my corrugated box structure is like that of a column which takes the load. Now what happens is, if you just stack one box above another, the first thing is, in many cases my stacking is not perfect, because to make the stack stable, I do a brick-like pattern. When I do a brick-like pattern, they are not all aligned. These can be aligned only when you do a palletization and when you stretch wrap it. Now during subsequent handling also, this gets disturbed again and again and again. So what happens in actually, the compression strength which you get of the boxes is lost, and during the journey you have problems starting with the transportation of boxes. Say the general requirement usually of corrugated boxes is of dimensions, the customer trades, tracking, storage, transports and handling, climate, packaging, machines, legislation. I will take you through, as I said, that when you did the investigation, I took some photographs. Now you see, this is one of the conditions which was there at one of the CFS, at one of the places where you have a wholesaler. Because here the pack is broken. And the other side, you say in Asia and in Western Europe. Now the requirements are different. Say, for example, requirements are different of a boxes for collection, whether it is retail ready, handling conditions, distribution channels. Now you see on this picture, the correct way to handle one side of the carton in the carton handling test. There is a test which you do it. The photo to the right shows an example of an intact carton which has successfully passed the carton handling tester. Now suppose you want to do with it a box. Say, suppose your glass do not bend, your tin cans do not bend. So here you can do away with corrugated box. Now, but when we do away with corrugated box, there must be a way to handle it. Now, these handling tests must properly be done to reach the consignment in the proper condition. Now, this carton is retail ready, but unless you use an automation, how do you pack it? Say, most of the principles of how the boxes fail is due to buckling. Now, if you see on the pack on your right-hand side, the boxes here all have failed through buckling. They have failed through buckling because their edges are not at all aligned. Now, how to keep them aligned? It will be through a palletization, and in which I stretch wrap it so that the boxes do not shift. Here I come to the second important principle of handling, which is unitization. Now, it is not only important that you stack it properly, but it must remain as an unit. So when the load is handled as an unit and not as single boxes as such. Say, for example, here I say that the corners make it stronger. So in fact, if you make the boxes 8 corner, in fact, this will be virtually stronger and have a more compression strength as compared to a normal box, which has got 4 corners. Now here, if you see it is very simple. You see a wooden crate has gone to a palletized load. Now here I have corners. Now what do the corners do? They take the weight. Now if I don't palletize, what will happen is, this will get broken. So the corners, the load will not pass through the corners. For greater packing stability, I will stack it the brick way. And one edge of one will come on the middle of the another box. So that means one load will come on the middle of another box. And a packaging professional knows that you have now start reducing the theoretical compression strength with factors like 50% less, 45% less, 30% less and all that. Now what this does, this gives the angle board. Angle board is what? It prevents it from shifting. Now I have strapped it. Strapping prevents me from shifting of the box. And that it has also unitized it with the pallet. So that when I handle a load, it is a unitized load, and in which the loads are taken at the corners. Now, unless you do this through an automation, this is not possible. So that means this is a process by which we make, this is an ITW process, ITW slide, by which we make the corner boards. These are also known as edge board protectors. Now, as it says, it provides vertical stacking strength, gives a corner protection, and can be work like a wood, and it's actually made from a recycled paper and plastic. So it's in a way green. There are also things which are known as U-crates. They are end caps for wood and corrugated. They can be made of a counter glued cardboard, and they give you superior beam strength. And then you do it with a stretch film. There are stretch films available which are pre-stretched, which are as thin as 8 microns, 10 microns, 12 microns, and there is no manual stretching is needed. Here it is a solution for in India where you don't have expensive stretching machines and stretching films. Here the film is already stretched so that you save on area and it gives you the regular amount of stretching which is there. Now, this is a recycling program which is there for PET. In fact, in the PET straps, we use the PET bottles. We use the PET bottles. It goes, the PET bottles now are being recycled and they're being used for straps as well as for fibers. Now, this is showing that how the bottles go for straps. Now, so the entire thing becomes recyclable and returnable. Say, this is a returnable transport pack in which it goes. There are slip sheets. You can see that the trays have been replaced with sheets, and the entire thing comes back. Now, the entire thing is obviously possible with the end-of-the-line automation. Now, I will end my presentation here. It's a very small story. It happened around, I was telling Himadri that around 30 years back, India didn't produce any sack kraft paper. And one of the companies, cement companies, has got a contract for packaging of cement in Indonesia. So the government of India gave this job to Indian Institute of Packaging that you come up with a specification of paper so that we would waive our duties on that, so that these paper, sack kraft paper, could be imported in country, and then it could be converted into sack kraft, and the party which has got the order for export of cement can send it on bags made of this. So I went through all the specs. I gave a specs. So the company imported that quality of paper, converted into sack kraft bags, cement was put in it, and it went to Indonesia. When it went to Indonesia, it was found that there was a disaster. You can see a track and trace thing being done here. It was a disaster because it was found that all Indian bags were failing. Similarly, a consignment has come from Japan, and there are absolutely no failures. So there was a question in Parliament, and accordingly, an investigative committee was put. Now, we got all those bags, Japanese bags, at our place, also Japanese paper. We investigated it. The result of the investigation was the Japanese paper was inferior to Indian paper, but while they were being drop tested, a Japanese bag could take 2 drops. An Indian bag could take 5 drops. So what has happened during transportation, the Indian bags have already taken the 5 drops, so that when it reached Indonesia, it was the 6th drop, and it broke open. But the Japanese bags have not even taken 1 drop. So this was a thing which was brought by palletization and by end-of-line packaging. So somebody could have saved on the quality of paper and on the price of the bags if you would have palletized and stretch wrapped it. Some of you, if you have been to a cement factory, you will see that even today, in some of our cement factories, cement is packed into bag and then it goes through a spiral, which is around 1 story high, and then lands on a wagon, open wagon, or lands on a truck. So around 1 floor is approximately the drop height of Indian cement in a bag. So palletization and automation also brings an element of improvement into the ultimate quality. And in some cases, this can bring cost reduction also. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dasgupta. Now, very quickly, I will ask the panelists, starting with Mr. Singh, to give a small case study of any one of, let's say, a cartoning machine or any machine that you have worked in, where through automation, the OEM was without automation or without adequate automation, you did automation, and what was the benefit that resulted? And a small actual case study, if you can go over.
This is not a Rockwell video, but this is a video by a OEM, okay? And anyway, I got license to show this video from the OEM. And why I want to show this is this OEM was actually they manufacture these sleeving machines, and they were making around 350, 400 sleeves per minute machine. And eventually we landed there. The OEM is in Taiwan. So we landed there, we started marketing all our strategic points, and finally he said, okay, let me give you one machine, just show me what you can do. And then we work on those machines, and finally we took that machine from 400 to 800 sleeves per minute, and that's the fastest machine in the world. So what the OEM did,
Day-Sig has been producing high-quality auto-shrink label machines for many years and has developed a reputation for its cutting-edge development and market-leading features. It produces a whole range of different shrink sleeve machines from 100 bottles a minute right through to 800 bottles a minute to suit their many clients' needs. The machine we're looking at today is a true world beater, and as we will see, has been adopted by a world-class beverage production filling line of the Coca-Cola Bottling Company. This is the DSL 800A.
so probably I'll just skip
And it
some
is the
part.
fastest single-head bottle shrink sleeve machine in the world at 800 bottles per minute within a 180mm cut length.
So what I try to show is the machine which actually the OEM was making. He was only focusing on the machine alone, and probably the reason why he couldn't take that machine from beyond 400 was he really didn't understood how to fix the input, fix the output, and even to an extent that he has this sleeve feed from a roll, right? So if he wants to increase the speed of the machine, somewhere he has to address automatic changeover of the rolls from the exhausted to a new roll. So all these aspects, and even the cutting accuracy of the label, and exactly throwing the label onto the bottle, all these aspects he really couldn't actually figure out. So like what Vivekananda said, that even sensing, motion control, all those aspects finally help push this machine from 400 to 800 bottles per minute. So this is an actual line video which the OEM took out of Coca-Cola. So that's the impact of automation, what actually can do, right? So probably I can skip the video, maybe because we are running out of time. Yeah. So this is one case study, which is a good example.
Hello. This is also a good example because it also means that the 800 bottles will be filled per minute. There will be 800 bottle capping per minute. Now, after the sleeve is applied, then it is also shrunk. Now, the shrinking should be so that it can shrink on 800 bottles per minute. In fact, these are some of the limitations on our lines. That's why, though you can increase one speed, but it is very difficult to maintain the line integrity by doing all machines should operate at the same speed. And if there's a no bottle, there should be no sleeve. There is an empty bottle, there is no sleeve. So you can understand what the automation and the line integration has been done through all across the line for achieving these speeds. Of that, only one part we have seen through the label application. But the credit goes for the entire line, where all the speeds have increased, and this is an example of one machine talking to other and synchronizing it, the production of 800 BPM.
Mr. Mr. Vivekanand, can you give a small case study of where, the quality has actually been improved and the measurables that you got by automation?
Okay, if you see, we have plenty of cases like this, and basically, what we have seen majority cases, as Dasgupta said, integration. There is a one line is there already, but that is giving maximum output, maximum throughput. But the earlier stage, or maybe the next stage, where actually is not integrated, so everywhere is having speed limitations. First machine is, let's say, 800, but another machine is 900. So that there actually in that we are facing problem in terms of the quality. If I increase the speed of the first machine, it needs to integrate with the second machine, otherwise the quality of the entire line will disturb. And when we give the speed, it's okay. Let's say first machine, second machine, and third machine, we match the even speed. But if we don't check, sometime because of the shrink, because of the temperature variations may happen, and the shrink is not happening properly. Then again, there is a no check. There is no check. So in that case, basically, you need to have some check. Either it is through the vision or maybe through the sensors. There are multiple ways. And many of the cases, even market, you must be seeing, there are pouches are coming. It is, I will not take any company name, but there are many pouches are coming. There is no code, no pricing, there is even no, nothing, no printing. In fact, there is eatables, but they don't have printing. So such kind of packets are coming, and day in, day out, we are going in the market. We are seeing 50% discount, 70% discount. I found one day, okay, when this discount is happening, there is a lot of things. There are outdated, old products are also there. The selling and the buyers are buying that. But when it comes to home, they realize, okay, but okay, this is customer aspect. But why, if we see from our side, if we give proper quality check, proper inspection, either on any case, either it is a label or maybe direct printing on your product, and there is a checksum, either through the vision or maybe through the sensor, it will be really good for producer as well as to customer.
Okay, I would like to ask Mr. Gautama Buddha, have you used automation to improve productivity, quality, and if so, what success did you attain?
Yeah, definitely in the blister packing machines, the pinhole detectors, the leak detectors, and the NFDs and all, we have employed that, and definitely it has improved the productivity, and minimum stoppages were there, or the rejects were minimized in that. Earlier, the rejects were mixed up in the separate segregation has to be done, or rework has to be done. All that rework is avoided now.
So
This is one of
how
the
much has the speed gone up by as a result of this? And what is the improvement in the quality level? What is the level of rejection or wastage that you have reduced to the process?
Put 10 to 20% productivity improvement we could get.
And that is by automation,
By automation.
not by
And the
human
rejects were
intervention.
not segregated on the line. It was rejected by the machine itself. So there was no mix-up, no segregation further required in that. So that was a time waste totally. And still there is a chance of mix-up of the wrong blister going into this. So all that could be avoided in that.
Mr. Imadri, yeah, would you like to?
Yeah, when you look at the benefits of the automation, one is the speed, the output and all that. But in the pharmaceutical industry, what I felt is the most important one, the human interference creates a havoc in pharmaceutical industry because of bioburden and so on and so forth. In automation, when you don't employ the human interference in that, you get, quality, enhanced quality. And sometimes it's a face saver for the company itself. I mean, one can get into a lot of problem without automation. This is one aspect of it. And in case of the medical devices, if you look at it, a medical device has got several components, put them together, like, asthma inhaler, for example, powder inhaler. There will be a plastic, there will be a glass, there will be a spring, there will be a rubber. So many components are together. Now, if you don't have automation, any of that functions which it is supposed to deliver, it will not deliver, and sometimes it can be fatal. And it has actually happened in one case. The device is manufactured in a particular automated environment in Europe. The same device, same product, same company tried to do it in India. And in India, to cut the cost, somebody has introduced the human element while doing this, compilation. With the result, the spring did not sit properly at the place where it is supposed to sit. And when a patient triggered it, he got choked, and there was a case on that. So sometimes, automation in case of pharmaceutical industry is more critical because of these reasons rather than just output introduction.
Wonderful, because we are all biological agents ourselves. Mr. Chandri Prasad, would you like to put in a word on improvement in quality through automation? Your own experience.
Sir, when we are talking of automation, we have to also see the other side of the coin, that is the packaging converters, whether they are compatible with that. So we always end up that when we purchase a machine, there are two things. We have purchased a sophisticated machine, but we have not conveyed this to our suppliers, or even we have not done any validation whether the same packaging components, either primary or secondary, will work on that. So there should be a collaboration in between the automation industry, the packaging industry, and the user industry. Otherwise, what is happening is the execution is not going as per the systems, and there is a lot of rework and waste of time and waste of money. So I would ask the eminent people here, automation industry people, what is their focus on this and how they can collaborate and how they can make the installation and qualification as per the times. Because seldom the installation and qualification will anywhere postpone between 2 months to 3 months. And 2 to 3 months, the packaging technology people, the production people, the logistics people, all are quality assurance people, all we are spending on the time 3 months after what we have expected. So I just want to ask how you can collaborate and bring in
Mr. Dasgupta, do you have any experience?
Say, I will give an example of bottling lines. Now, in bottling lines, say, there are instances of in food industry where, say, for example, gherkins. Now, the imported lines run at 300 bottles per minute. But the 300 bottles per minute, if you want to run an Indian bottle at 300 bottles per minute, there are problems on the neck. Because the neck, say, this is in a wide neck bottle, say the process is different as compared to the global process. They have not gone to that process. So as a result of which, the neck is not very precise. Instead, so in place of NNPB, which is narrow neck and blow, instead of that, we have blow and blow, press and blow. So we don't have a blow and blow. We have a blow and blow and not a press and blow. The result of which necks are not precise, which because necks are not precise, there are cracks. The cap does not fill, and there is a problem. So unless the bottle making industry, jar making industry goes to that stage, that we have a NNPB of a bigger dia jar, it is not possible to run 300 bottles per line. Let me give you another example. Say, for example, filling of ketchup and jams. Now, filling of ketchup and jams, unless, say, there are now fast speed fillers, but unless you fill inspection systems onto the line, because the human inspection is not adequate to inspect, say, 250 to 300 bottles per minute. So unless you see the neck, if there is a crack, if there is a spike, if there is something which is broken and is fallen in the jam, which you will not be able to see, it becomes extremely difficult. So making the speed fast is one part of the thing. The material that you to stand to that speed is another part of the story. So both of them make the full story complete.
Yes, I would just like to add, maybe in a carton is the folding behavior when the speed increases. Or in this particular video, I'm sure it would, if it was a PVC shrink sleeve, it would have to go to a PET shrink sleeve with much faster TD shrinkage. Otherwise, it won't work at that speed. So this is very important. So with this, we will come to the...
I have one question, please.
Yeah.
Can I ask the question?
One last question,
Yes.
because...
The presentations were excellent. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But this was, the topic was the improving, operations by automation. Now, this is a question which I'm addressing to both Mr. Patil and Harvinder. An important part of from the farmer perspective, an important part is validation and change control. How would your automation systems impact those two? Have you had any on-hand, hands-on experience on this?
Yep.
It would be good.
We work a lot with pharma fermenters, bioreactors, and skid processing line OEMs. And I think the first target when they go into automation is, can this system be made compliant with 21 CFR Part 11? So what this standard says is how good can you track about all the events that's happening in the machine. So this is one such integral part of automation, that since the intelligence is already there in the PLC and the HMI is there, which is taking note of all the changes in the sequence parameters that's being done. So all you need is now kind of a function which is an audit function, which is built into the system, which keeps recording all these events. So when an operator has to change any of the parameter, he has to use his own user ID and password. And upon changing any smallest parameter also, he has to give a justification on the system, on the HMI, why he changed it. And that gets logged into a database. And this database is again made in such a secured, encrypted way that nobody can actually corrupt or tamper the database. So definitely automation in pharma industry is very much in focus on adhering to these standards.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. I think that was a very important question on
Thank you very much.
validation, which came right at the end. Thank you very much. And with that, we come to the end of this session. I would like to thank all parties. Okay, lady at the back, we must give her a chance. Please. Please ask your question. Yes.
I'm Bithi here. My question addresses to Dasgupta sir. Sir, we understand that palletization is a very important part of transportation, but if we are focusing on domestic products, like if we want to travel from Hyderabad to Cochin or max to Bangalore, so what will be the best transport system for that? And how to ensure that it is not damaged? Because I am basically from cosmetic segment, and we basically are in south, and we transport from Hyderabad to max Cochin, Bangalore, all this segment. So how we can ensure that it is not damaged?
Say, there we need some innovation, because when the pallets are not full, when you have, say, mixed pallet loads, for example, say, how do you have a mixed pallet load? Now, I would recommend people here to look at the softwares which are popularly being used. For example, CAPE or TOPS. See, this gives you a palletization pattern. And this will, even if there are mixed loads, say for example, cosmetic, in cosmetic, what can happen is there could be mixed loads. So they could be palletized. Secondly is...
Sir,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt. There is no pallet. We transport it on trucks directly.
You transport it on trucks?
Yes.
So
No pallet.
No pallets, okay. So in that case, the first is the unitization should happen. That means the boxes should not move on the truck while it is being transported. There should not be any void space in the boxes. The boxes should be strong enough to take the compression load. During the handlings, the care should be taken that they are not thrown or done like this. So this, see, if we don't have a pallet, then the roll shifts back to the box to make it strong and take the weight where it is there. If you can tell me what is the type of damages which you face, so it will have to be specific to the product. I mean, there is no specific, there will be no specific answer to this. Maybe small trucks, shrink wrapped so that they don't rattle inside. Stronger boxes, compression strengths under control, less transportations. This would go in reducing the damages when you are transporting one product from one place to another.
I think you can talk to him more during dinner time. So we'll have to wind up the session because we have sessions after this. So I would like to thank all the panelists and give small mementos as a token of our appreciation.
The concept of combining packaging and supply chain management is a wonderful idea, and the program integration between the packaging and SCM, the topic selected was excellent. It was not done just like that. It was done with a brainstorming session, and which they have yielded the best results in these 2 days.
Today it has been really important for the industry to understand the importance of the whole integration of automation with the enterprise level too. Apart from the topic, I really liked the whole concept of assembling the industry experts. It was a good learning experience for me. I definitely would like to come back on the next conclave too.
In fact, like before I came here, so it was I was under the impression that like it is completely packaging related or supply chain related for a specific domain or an industry. But it was really a surprise. Like it is good to know that like diversified industries were there and the speakers were eminent speakers were there. You know, so it was like a complete day. I could see that nobody left. So it was very interesting. Each session was well managed. So I think like hats off to the organizers.
And what is my takeaway from here? I think it's an education, and it's only when different elements of the supply chain actually interact and share knowledge. It's when we'll have a completely integrated product for our customers over there.